The Legend of Hollow's End, special Halloween episode. Nestled deep within an ancient forest, long forgotten by most, lies the ghost town of Hollow's End. The trees that surround it loom like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches twisting and creaking in the wind as though trying to keep the world from remembering what happened here. The town's name is spoken only in whispers by those who still live in the nearby villages, but even they avoid the place, especially on Halloween night. You see, Hollow's End was once a bustling settlement, vibrant and alive. Families lived simple but content lives, and every fall they would celebrate the harvest with a festival. But everything changed on one fateful Halloween night over a century ago, the night the Lantern Man came. It began like any other Halloween. Children in handmade costumes ran through the streets, laughing as they collected treats. The villagers decorated their homes with carved pumpkins and lanterns, and the evening was filled with the warmth of community spirit. But as night fell, a heavy fog rolled in from the forest, thicker and darker than anyone had ever seen. It swallowed the village whole, snuffing out the moonlight and turning familiar paths into mazes of shadows. Out of the fog, at the edge of the forest, a figure appeared. He was tall and gaunt, his back hunched as though weighed down by an unseen burden. In one hand he held an old, rusted lantern that flickered with an unnatural, dim light. The villagers couldn't see his face, only the dark hood that covered his head, casting long shadows over where his eyes should be. But they could feel his presence, cold and heavy, like a damp chill that crept into their bones. At first, no one approached him. He simply stood there at the edge of town, the lantern's glow cutting through the fog like a beacon of doom. Hours passed, and the festival slowly quieted. Some of the children began to cry, unsettled by the strange figure, while the adults exchanged nervous glances. They debated whether to confront him, but something about the Lantern Man felt wrong, as though he wasn't truly human. Then, as if drawn by an invisible force, a little girl named Clara wandered towards the woods. Her parents called for her, their voices rising in panic as she stepped closer to the figure, her eyes wide and blank, as if in a trance. Clara's mother chased after her, but just as she reached out to grab her daughter's hand, the Lantern Man turned, and both he and Clara vanished into the fog. Not a scream, not a sound, just gone. Panic spread like wildfire through Hollow's End. The villagers frantically searched for Clara, but no matter where they looked, no matter how loudly they called, there was no trace of her. The only thing left behind was her small, delicate doll, lying on the ground near the edge of the forest, and though the fog lingered, the Lantern Man was nowhere to be found. The next night, another child disappeared, then another, each time at dusk. The pattern was always the same, a faint flicker of light in the distance, a whisper in the wind, and then silence. Desperation turned to terror, and soon the townsfolk stopped leaving their homes after dark. Even during the day, the once lively streets grew eerily quiet, as if the village itself was holding its breath. Some of the men, fearing for their families, formed a search party. Armed with lanterns and torches, they ventured into the forest, determined to confront the Lantern Man and bring their children back. They ventured deeper than anyone had before, pushing through the dense trees and thick fog that seemed to press in on them from all sides. Hours passed without a word, only the crunch of dead leaves beneath their boots and the distant hoot of an owl breaking the silence. Then, just as they thought they might turn back, they saw it, a dim, flickering light moving between the trees, leading them further into the depths of the forest. The men followed the light, their hearts pounding in their chests, weapons gripped tightly in their hands. They could hear something just beyond the glow, whispers, faint and unintelligible, calling their names. As they neared the source of the light, the fog thickened and the trees seemed to twist and bend unnaturally. The whispers grew louder, but the words made no sense, an eerie jumble that filled the air with dread. Then, as if the forest itself had swallowed them whole, the men disappeared. Not a single one returned to the village. Hollow's End descended into chaos. Families packed up their belongings and fled, leaving their homes behind. By the time winter arrived, the town was abandoned, left to rot beneath the cold, skeletal trees. But even after Hollow's End became nothing more than a decaying relic of the past, the legend of the Lantern Man lived on. Over the years, whispers of the disappearances spread far and wide, becoming a chilling tale told around campfires and at sleepovers, but no one dared to visit Hollow's End, at least not until one Halloween night many decades later. A group of teenagers, eager to prove their bravery, decided to visit the cursed town. They had heard the stories, of course, but they didn't believe them. To them, it was just an old legend, something to laugh about while sneaking beers and cigarettes. As the sun set, they made their way through the forest, flashlights cutting through the growing darkness. The town was exactly as they had imagined, abandoned, decaying, with the remnants of old houses sagging under the weight of time. They wandered through the streets, joking and daring each other to explore the dilapidated buildings, but as night fell, a thick fog rolled in, just as the stories had said, and that's when they saw it, the faint glow of a lantern flickering at the edge of town. At first, they thought it was another prank, maybe one of their friends trying to scare them, but as they got closer, the air grew colder and an unsettling silence fell over the town. The lantern swayed gently, as if beckoning them, and though every instinct told them to run, they couldn't tear their eyes away from the light. Then came the whispers. Soft at first, like a breeze rustling through the leaves, but growing louder, more insistent, calling each of them by name. One of the teens, a boy named Kevin, stepped forward as if in a trance. His friends tried to stop him, pulling at his arm, but he shook them off and continued toward the light. Just as he reached the Lantern Man, the figure turned. In the glow of the lantern they finally saw his face, pale, gaunt, with hollow, empty eye sockets that seemed to devour the light around him. His mouth twisted in a grotesque smile, and before anyone could scream, Kevin was gone. The remaining teens ran, terror gripping their hearts, but the fog thickened and the trees closed in around them. One by one they vanished, until the town was silent once more, the lantern's glow fading into the mist. To this day, no one ventures near Hollow's End, especially not on Halloween night. It's said that the Lantern Man still walks the ruined streets, waiting for the next soul to wander too close. Some say the children who disappeared are trapped in the woods, their voices mingling with the wind, calling for help, forever lost to the fog. And if you listen closely on a quiet Halloween night, you might just hear the faint sound of leaves crunching beneath unseen footsteps, the soft flicker of a lantern in the distance. But whatever you do, don't follow the light, because once you step into the Lantern Man's glow, you'll never come back. If you enjoyed unravelling the eerie legend of the Lantern Man and the haunted town of Hollow's End, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more bone-chilling tales of horror and the supernatural. Turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss a spine-tingling story from the shadows. Stay safe and beware of what lurks in the dark.